Hey, what's good, y'all? What's good? Thawahgabar for Black Authentic Truth. Give me a second. Let me get things together. We're gonna rock out. There we go. We on. Let me just recap since I had that issue last week with Captain Tazariak and Tommy where they barely could hear me. But I'm just going to recap, right? I'm gonna recap what I just said. So what we're gonna go into today, what I got for y'all is the Willie Lynch letter and how we have colorism in the Black community. That's something I want to touch on. Brothers and sisters, that you may have a Black father, a white mother, and how you are treated in the Black community. Even a brother that's a lighter shade of brown like myself, how you have blackity Black people that say, well, you're not 100% Black. You're, you somewhere down the line, you're mixed with a white man. So we have that in our community. I also want to talk about, there's a video with the Antiques Roadshow where an appraiser is appraising a slave bangle. Well, he doesn't want to appraise it I think I clipped it before. He actually says he's not going to appraise it. He's not going to give an amount on the bango, but the history that he gives on the bango, on the slave trade, solidifies my stance and my point that we all were not the same as far as Black people uh, selling their own people. You know, you hear that a lot, and that's something that's just thrown around. So I'll get into that. And last, I will go over a Black Authentic story, which is the Opelousas massacre, right? Opelousas, Louisiana, the massacre that happened there. And man, there is so many massacres that happen in America. It's unbelievable that you've never heard about. And so we'll touch on that one. Opelousas, Louisiana, the massacre that happened there. Uh, and yeah, so this is the Thawahgabar for Black Authentic Truth. Man, I'm live. I'm in full effect, 3D, live in your face. And I'm gonna start off with the Willie Lynch letter. Now, many Black people have heard of the Willie Lynch letter, or they say, nigga, that's Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch. So who was Willie Lynch? Willie Lynch was supposedly a slave master in the West Indies that wanted to help the slave masters in Virginia better operate their plantations. And so he wrote supposedly this letter. Many people say that Willie Lynch was not real, can't be corroborated. And but the information in the Willie Lynch letter, and let me just put it in the chat. So there's a free PDF because they sell this on Amazon. They actually sell the Willie Lynch letter as a book, but there's a free PDF you can read. I'm gonna put it in the chat. Give me a second. There you go. I'll put it in the chat for brothers and sisters that might want to read the Willie Lynch letter. Now, the Willie Lynch letter, like I said before, they say he was not real, and it's the way it's written. It was written after, or it was written later. So they say that you can't really solidify that this man was actually real, but the information in the Willie Lynch letter is straight on point with what happened in slavery, and even after, even now today, 200 years after, how the slaves would act towards one another. So, in a nutshell, he wanted the slave masters to pit find the differences in the different slaves and pit them against one another. So you would use age, you use color, you would use status, you know, whether you worked outside in the field or you worked inside the house. You would use all of these differences to cause strife and envy between the slaves. So then you would better be able to, you know, operate your plantation without worrying about them, you know, uprising and, you know, looking at you as the enemy. They would look at themselves as the enemy. And that is definitely what has happened to Black people today. Definitely. We look at ourselves as the enemy, and we treat one another with a envy and a self-hatred. We're always in competition. That's what it is. We're always in competition with one another. It doesn't matter what it is. We're always in competition. And when we get something, we don't actually like to share it with one another. We don't want to give each other the game. Speaking of that, I think I'll do that next week if I have time. Next Sunday, I will go over the things that I use. So I will go over my cameras. I will go over, you know, because I get people asking me, especially a lot of brothers, ask me, how do I get my videos clear? How do I make my live stream look the way it looks, or just videos in general? I'll go over my camera equipment. I'll go over the things you need to do, like to connect your camera to your computer, like a capture card. And I'll just show you everything that I use for a live stream. And these are things that I didn't know how to use them. I just, you know, went online and read forums and learned from videos, tutorials on how to use certain things and to get the particular look that I wanted. So I'm gonna give away the game of how the things that I use, because it's not a big deal. Like if any brother or sister wants to, you know, do videos, podcasts, whatever the case may be, I'm gonna just show you what I use and how you should use it. Even the lighting, I might even go over lighting, like how you, and all of these things I did not know. You know, I didn't know a year ago. There's things I'm doing right now that I didn't know 2 months ago. So getting back to that, how we don't like to help one another and, give away the game. But Willie Lynch pit us these objectives, and I'm gonna read a little bit of it. These are the things that would have the slaves controllable for up to 300 years. So let me get the Willie Lynch letter. I'm gonna pull it up as I read. I'm not gonna read all. I just want to get the part, like, we're focusing right now on colorism. So I'm gonna just, talk about that for a minute. We're gonna talk about colorism, and that's what I want out of the Willie Lynch letter. Let me grab this. Let me add it to the screen. Let me see. And I put it in the chat for brothers and sisters that want to see what I'm actually reading. You can just click on that. I believe you can copy and paste that link. I don't know if it's a clickable link, but you can copy and paste, and then you can get it rocking and rolling and follow along. I know that on the screen it's probably too little. Maybe I'll just make it bigger. Right? And let me see where I want to be. Okay. So I'm gonna start off with a little introduction. Not all of it. So it starts off, this is the second paragraph. He says, "Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I don't need to elaborate. I am here to enumerate your problems. I'm here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly," he said, if you install it like you installing some new roofing or some insulation, "if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies." Okay, let me skip down. He says, "On the top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, sizes of plantations, status on plantations, attitudes of old owners." You see, these are different things that he used, quote unquote, that he used in order to pit the slaves against one another. And let me skip down a little bit. Next paragraph, he says, "Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male." So you want old and young to not agree. "And the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female." Now, y'all see, just from reading this, a person will look at the Willie Lynch letter and they will say, this is on point. This is on point. When you talk about the young versus the old, the male versus the female, like, this is on point to a T when you just look at how we behave in our community today. These things are actually in us. Even though they say that Willie Lynch wasn't a real person, the information that is in there actually happened, and you see it play out within our behaviors within our own community, even to this day, with the men versus women thing. That's crazy. Now, one of the thing I want to talk about is the dark skin versus light skin. That is actually in there, and that actually plays out in our community to this day. I see I got 8 people in here. Shout your boy out, like, share, subscribe to this channel. You know what I mean? Boost that algorithm for a brother. Go ahead and boost it. You up in here and you gaining something, you gaining some knowledge, you gaining a different perspective and some insight that is usable. Go ahead and support your man. Now, when it comes to this light skin versus dark skin, it plays out in our community also. But who created it though? Who created that idea? Well, we're reading right here. It started on a plantation. It was not in here is another one that I grew up with. It's good hair versus nappy hair, right? I know y'all hip to that one. Good hair versus nappy hair. She got good hair. She must be mixed with something. And good hair to us is just wavy hair. Like good hair to us is not like stringy dog hair or like white people hair. Good hair to us is just hair that curls or that's a little wavier. It has a longer, the curl is not tight or like kinky. That we call that good hair when all our hair is good. But getting back to the colorism thing, like when it comes to a brother and sister, right? That's light skinned, that's a lighter shade of brown. A lot of times, how we look at them is that they are mixed with something. Now, I'm asking this to brothers and sisters. Maybe there's a brother or sister that's listening that maybe your father is black, maybe your father is white and your mother is black, maybe your father is black and your mother is white. Whatever the case, what is your experience? Just for education's sake, what is your experience dealing with the different sides of the family? How are you looked at? Because a brother or a sister that is mixed, that is less light skin, as we know it, they're probably looked at different on both sides of the family. They're not white enough on the white side, they're not dark enough or black enough on the black side. But when it comes to black people, we get this train of thought from what? We get it from our oppressor. That's where we get this train of thought from. Like we ostracize brothers and sisters that are quote unquote mixed. And I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to the mixed thing. We ostracize quote unquote brothers and sisters that are not dark enough. On the flip side, on the plantation, all the way through, the government, job employments, being on television, they usually use a lighter skinned black person. Now they're starting to get more, they're trying to throw in more diversity. You're starting to see reporters that are dark skinned, black women that are dark skinned reporters on television. You're starting to see more of that. I'm not talking about acting. I'm talking more about like, commercials, brochures, news channels. That's on the flip side. Like when it comes to this society, when it came to your white Americans, they would rather hire and choose a lighter shade of brown person, a person like in between, than the darkest of our people. But we have this thing in our head that we're mixed. Now I'm getting on that. Mixed. What is mixed? Where does that even come from? You had the one drop rule. Anybody know what the one drop rule is? The one drop rule, white people basically said during the time of slavery, they said, well, if a person they have parents from different ancestries, whatever parent is on the lower level or the lower caste of the two parents, that's what they are. So by default, white people conquered the Native Indians, they conquered the Mexicans, they conquered black people. So anytime white people would mix, no matter who was what, they would always say that the one drop rule, since your father may be white and your mother Mexican, you're Mexican. Your father may be black or white, and vice versa, you're black, because this is the ancestry that is lower than the other one, the white one. The white would always be on top. White is always right. That was the attitude with that one drop rule. But that's where we get it from. That's where black people get that idea that you're mixed. If you're mixed, if you got a little bit of black in you, you black. That's not true. It's not true, right? That's not true. Now, when you look at it like this, the seed of a man, that's what the child is. No matter where he lays at, no matter what the woman is, because in our community, you got black people that say, well, my great-great-great-grandmother was Native Indian. I'm Native Indian. But my great-great-great-grandfather was a Negro. Well, then you are a Negro. You're not Native Indian. Think of it like this in a simple term. You have trees that grow in America, right? Maybe a fruit tree, an apple tree, you know, and it has seeds. You take these seeds from this apple tree in America and you plant this seed in China, it's still going to grow up to be an apple tree. Just because you plant the seed in different soil doesn't take away what the seed is. The seed, a la sperm, comes from the man, your father. You are what your father is. Could you imagine how confusing that would have been in ancient times if you was to say that I'm mixed? Even now, look, think about how confusing that is. And I'm not talking about, this is not to down brothers and sisters that think that are actually, that do have a black father or white mother. This is not to down them, but we live in a society that is all about colorism. So we don't think in these terms. We don't think like, oh, my father was this, that's what I am. We think in color. That's how we think, in color, because that's how we came up from slavery, looking at color, obsessed with the color of the skin, and not really understanding what the nationality is, and that the father that holds the seed holds the nationality. We're obsessed with color to the point where we think how the people that hated us and were racist towards us, that's how they thought. So we think like that too. So we always think that we're mixed naturally. And black people wanted to get away from being black. So we'll say, I'm mixed with Irish on my mama's side, and this on my daddy's side, and this on my mama's side. And we have four, you have a black person that'll say they mix with four different things. But you see how confusing that would be for in ancient times for a person to say, I'm mixed with this, I'm mixed with that, I'm mixed with that. That term is new. That term is from the West, from westernized thinking, America. Mixed. The one drop rule. Mixed. Why? Because that's what they saw. They saw color. So how can we determine that these people are not us? Well, if they have any pigmentation in their skin, they not us. The one drop rule. We white is all right, but black is whack. Brown is down. Black and brown bring a frown. White is all right though. So any easy way to do that is just say, well, if you mix with them, then that's what you are. You're not one of us. You're not going, hell no, you're not. You said what? Your father is slave master what? Jackson? Oh yeah, I know, but your mama black. You're not a part of this community. You're supposed to be over there with them. That was that one drop rule, right? So yeah, man, like when it comes to that whole idea, ancient cultures, they recorded the lines of the father. That's why when you look at ancient Egypt and you look at these different ancient cultures, these family lines are recorded through the bloodline of the father. If you was going to say, oh, he's this, his mother is this, his father is this, he's mixed, then how would a line of succession and inheritance be passed on? Divided? It wasn't. So the man carries the seed. That's just straight up. So when you have brothers and sisters today that are mixed, they actually have to go through a lot more, because now you're looking in the mindset, it's like, I have two ancestries. Number one, first, you don't even know that you are what your father is. Number two, it's like you feel like I'm two ancestries. I have to cater to this side and to that side. I have to cater to my black side of the family and the white side of the family. But really, you should just cater to the side of your family where your father came from. That's who you really are. And I'm not taking away from no relationships. Black people have, black people is number one people that like to mix with everybody. So we're mixed. We have relationships with all kind of people, a lot of different black families. So I'm not saying it like that, but you have your relationships. It is what it is. Your family is what it is today, but you are what your father is. There's no such thing as being mixed. It doesn't even make sense from a common sense level or even a biological level, because the seed came from your father. So case in point, which would make a lot of black people upset, is Bob Marley was actually a European white man. One of his sons is quoted as saying he not black, right? But Bob Marley's father was a white Scottish man. You get that? So, but we're caught on color, black people, because white people is caught on color. We're not caught on who is your father, what is his nationality. We're caught on, okay, one drop rule. If you got black in him, he black. But you really are what your now if a sister, let's just say, I don't know what, Eve or Serena Williams is a good example. If a sister has a baby by a white man, of course they're going to come out with some pigmentation, but those children are the seed of their father. They are Caucasian in the blood, in the spirit, all of that. And so that's what I mean with anytime you look at brothers and sisters that have some pigmentation and they might have parents from different ancestry. Just sum it up like this, man. You are whatever his father or her father is, that's what she is. That's what he is. But black people got to get off of this colorism thing, because it's niggas that's light, almost look like they could be Caucasian, but they black people. They got a father that's chocolate black. Case in point, Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin he damn near like redheaded and got freckles. But I bet you never seen no white man jump like Blake Griffin. Ever. You know what I'm saying? So we can't really look at color to determine who's black and who's not. A lot of these this is pushed by a lot of you conscious blackity black Negroes that are just so black power and, so African. And I'm gonna get to that African thing too with this next story. But that comes from a lot of brothers and sisters like that. That's just in that conscious community. Like I said, they'll say like somebody like me is not 100% black. Not 100. Even if I can trace that my forefathers are black men, because of the shade of my skin, that's where that colorism comes in. And you even hear it in our community. Our community is all about colorism. We got the joke where we like, oh, that's some light skin shit. That's some dark skin shit. You know what I'm saying? Excuse my language. It's a family show, excuse my language. But to get my point across, we have that in us where we say, well, that's some light skin stuff. You doing some light skin stuff right now. Are you doing this some real dark skin stuff? Even the thing with the Air Force Ones, the white Air Force Ones versus the dark ones. Wearing dark ones is grimy. You own a different type of time. Wearing light skin ones, you nice, you kind, you got manners and all of that. That's the same with that colorism. That comes all the way from the Willie Lynch letter. That comes from slavery. I ain't gonna say the Willie Lynch letter. Let's not say that. This is just to highlight some of the things that actually happened with us. There's a lot of stuff in this Willie Lynch letter that we actually do to this day. Now, whether it was right or wrong, or whether it was real or not, you cannot deny that this stuff is actually happening in our community. And colorism is one of them. So I want to get to this video. It's with the Antique Roadshow. And there's something said in here that I think needs to be reiterated. Okay. Let me add this to the screen.
That I've ever had to talk about, but talk about it we must.
Yes.
This is an amazing object and a testament to the callous trade that went on in the 17th, 18th, and into the 19th century. So we've got.
So let me just preface this by saying this is a slave bangle made out of ivory that belonged to a West Indian prince that participated in the slave trade.
Written here, Prince Jemmy of Grandy, Bonnie, a good trader. We're thinking that Prince Jemmy may have been an African himself, trading in people. That's what I think, a despicable human being. I think he was an indigenous trader, somebody from Nigeria. He wouldn't have been trading in his own people. It was another nation, another tribe. He wouldn't have been trading in his own people. It was another nation, another tribe.
You hear that? This is the problem a lot of people have with me, is when I brought this out a few months ago, I brought it out in a book from the 1700s, a historian talking about that the people that were sold were different ethnically and culturally. And that takes me back to that word African. Now, you heard what this historian said, that, appraises antiques. He said he wouldn't have been dealing in his own people. It would have been a totally different nation. That's why I don't like the word African. That word is thrown around very loosely. It's a blanket term. African. There's more than 54 countries in Africa and countless languages and ethnicities. But here, the way we're educated in America, in the West, African or Africa pertains to anybody who has dark skin, who is melanated. And I feel as though, well, I know it's a disservice to the many different cultures and ethnicities in Africa. In fact, Native Africans don't identify themselves as African or African American. They go by who they are. They say, well, I'm Congolese, I'm Nigerian, I'm Sinhalese. We in America have been brainwashed to think in this whole African term, let me just say this whole African term, right? It's a way to escape guilt for white Americans. You see, because when you start talking about that slave trade, they say, well, Africans sold other Africans. That's what they say. That's a way to just bundle us all together and say we're all the same. When there's so much documentation and so much history that shows that these people did not sell their own people. You got to really think about it. It's some common sense I'm finna show you. I was thinking about this the other day. Let me see, somebody hit me up. I was thinking about this the other day. When you talk about they sold their own people, who did they sell? It's only one or two things. Did they sell their immediate family? Like, okay, maybe it's a cousin you don't get along with. I don't know. Like, your family that you grew up with, that you're very familiar with. Or did they sell people from their own village? Like we don't really have that concept anymore in the Black community because, you have it in small pieces. Like if you live in an apartment complex, you live on a street where you got some neighbors that hang out together. We have it in small little pockets. So did they sell those people? That wouldn't even make no damn sense. So when they say they sold their own people, that is just a blanket statement that doesn't actually specify who sold who. It doesn't specify. There's plenty of stories of Israelites, one of them being Alada Iqueno, Gustavus Vasa, the African, who with his sister was kidnapped by Africans. But when he was educated in Europe, he wrote about how his childhood was. And he said it was exactly like the Israelites. All of the things in the law, purifications, washings, women being separated when they own their flower, that's their menstrual. Just so many different things that he wrote about that's how they lived. There's so many kingdoms that, like I said in that more video, you have Ismail deity that's still living today, right? Israelites were all over Timbuktu. They talk about Mansa Musa all the time. Mansa Musa, his name means King Moses. That's what it means. So you want to say the Bible ain't real, this ain't real? Like, come on, knock it off. Where is your source? Where is your proof? I can bring out all kind of sources and proof. I got jewels in the chest box I ain't even brought out. I just be sitting on them. I share them with my brothers, but it's no point in debating people about the people that came in the transatlantic slave trade wasn't the same. You have African nations, Ghana, that have apologized for their role in the transatlantic slavery. You got actual kingdoms that apologize for what their ancestors did, governments. So like now this was not about that actual bango that belonged to a African prince that was selling slaves. This is more about what he said at the end, where he said they wasn't selling their own people. He wanted to educate the UK white woman. He wanted to educate her and let her know, because see, in America, that's what they say. They say, y'all, well, Africans sold Africans. Y'all was selling each other. Whenever you bring up what they did here, they will revert to that and say, well, Africans sold Africans. I mean, who are you going to be mad at? I'm mad at both of them. Now, it was a 50-50 thing. And I know that the people that was sold were not the same people who was doing the damn selling. They was not. And we know for sure they wasn't the people that was doing the buying. So I wanted to bring that out, man. That is definitely something. Like, if somebody would want to debate me, or even not necessarily debate me, but want to discuss this, I will put the invite in the chat, because this is something that needs to be talked about. Black people know damn well that y'all like, if you talk to black people off the record, they always say, oh, Africans don't like us. They don't like it. They treat us like that. When they over here, they don't mess with us. They don't F with us. That's what y'all say off the record. But on the record, y'all like, oh, we all brothers, kumbaya and all of that. It ain't even like that. And let me just say this. I look at Africans like this, native Africans that's on the continent of Africa. I look at them like this, the same way I look at a Chinese man, the same way I look at an East Indian man, the same way I look at an Arab man. Where's Dubai at? Those is Arabs, right? And East Indians. If I was to go over there to visit the country for, to look at some archaeology or a museum or some, whatever the case may be, they will accept me. They would receive me, and I will be able to enjoy myself. The same as with Africa. They will accept Black people. They will receive us. The difference is that we've been gamed up to think that the people that sold us is our brothers based on color, skin color, and thick lips and wide nose. And it ain't just our ignorance. They are ignorant too of their history of what actually happened. But anybody that had a real inkling and feeling and care and love and think about the atrocities of the past in Africa, they would have assembled a fleet and came and got Negroes from America and said, I want to find my loved ones that we sold. I want to find them in America. That doesn't happen, brothers and sisters. It doesn't. I'm sorry. But you know what does happen? We do ancestry. We do try all, we do the DNA test. I got a DNA test, but I know it's bullshit though. I ain't even opened it. I got one from, I should do it just to do it, right? I already know what the results are going to be. There's a whole video with a brother that runs a DNA a company, tells you that it's trash. It ain't real. You throwing money into that. You know what's real? Paper, records. There's a brother out here, I forget his name. He's online. Was it like Indian Red or something like that? And if you believe you have ancestry that links you to being Native Indian, he will get the paperwork. It's like real paperwork. Like he'll find it. Everybody doesn't have a paper trail, But a lot of brothers and sisters, there's a paper trail out there for you where you can find your ancestry. This slave manifest with all of the names and where they came from on what ship and all that and where they went to. But the point I'm trying to say is that I got an ancestry. I got one of them little kits that you know, ancestry.com and all of that. But that's what we do. That's what us in America do. We're reaching and saying the motherland this. I want to go back to the motherland this. Go back to the motherland and see how you get treated. See how you get scammed. There's a sister right here in America that was scammed for like $100K from a Nigerian. $100K. Married him and everything. Once he got in there, he dipped back to Nigeria. That's just an incident, isolated incident. I'm not saying anything with that. That's just a sidebar. But the point is that we have a different kind of energy because we've been educated that is our motherland, and that's where we're from, and that's where our relatives are from. That's where we should be. That's where we should go. But why they don't feel that the same way? Why when they come up here, they don't feel like that towards you? We are a lost people. We don't have an identity. We're a lost people. Don't nobody want to receive us. And if they do want to receive us, it's just for the money they can get from us. That's about it. But you can go anywhere as a Black American. You can go anywhere in the world, and you're going to be received with, you know, with happiness and because you're a Black American. In reality, you're God's chosen people. So you're the most popular Black people on the planet Earth. You're the Black people that produced, you know, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and Beyonce and all of these super mega stars and these people that all of these races want to emulate. You are those people. So they're going to receive you. Hell, you can go to China and a regular Black man, go to China and you'll be, is it China? Is one of them. You'll be a superstar, just a Black man, because they never ever see you except on television. And they'll be thinking you Eddie Murphy. Meanwhile, you look like Mike Epps. Anyway, I'm off of it. I'm gonna end with this. This is the Opelousas massacre, okay? Opelousas, and I'm gonna put some images on the screen. Just bear with me 1 second. Let me pull this up. Hey, shout out to all y'all that's been rocking with me, man. I see some of y'all been in here solid. All right. It says the Opelousas massacre occurred on September 28th, 1868 in Opelousas, St. Landry Parish, Louisiana. The event is also referred to the Opelousas riot by some historians, and you know that's a damn lie. They like to say it was a riot. They like to say a lot of these things are race riots, are riots to throw people off in thinking that it was both parties involved doing the same amount of violence towards one another, when really they were just massacres. But that's how they word it a lot of times. A massacre, they will word it as a riot, a race riot. Sounds better. Opelousas Black residents attempted to join a Democratic political group in the neighboring town of Washington. White Democrats in Opelousas, mainly members of the Seymour Knights, a white supremacist organization, Knights of the White Camellia, visited Washington to drive them out of the party. In response, Emerson Bentley, a white school teacher, editor, and an editor of the Progress newspaper, wrote and described the violence that the Seymour Knights had used against the African-American Democrats in Washington. So these black people, they were Democrats. They wanted to join a Democratic political group. Now it says this white teacher, or Bentley was assaulted by a group of whites while he taught his class. He was severely beaten and whipped, although he survived. Black Republicans urged retaliatory violence on the Knights, who in turn viewed this as the beginning of a long anticipated and inevitable Black revolt and race war. The Knights of the White Camellia mobilized thousands of members. Both sides were armed and prepared for conflict as they gathered in Opelousas. What is clear is that the white Democrats had an overwhelming advantage in numbers and weapons. By the afternoon of September 28th, the battle had become a massacre. A number of blacks were shot and killed or captured and later executed. Those who were not captured were chased into the swamps and killed on sight. 12 leaders of the Black Republicans who surrendered were executed the next day on the edge of town. No one will ever know how many people were killed, but the best estimate is that the number was at least 200, and it may have exceeded that total. Okay, let me get some more on the Opelousas massacre. Because black people wanted to be a part of the Democratic Party, and they wanted to be a part of the Republican Party, but the KKK didn't want them voting. And so the picture I had up was black people casting their votes, trying to be a part of something. And this, you're talking about 1868. This is 3 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And you know that racism was fresh in the spirit of white America. And to see a black person be able to do something that just a few years ago they wouldn't dare try, that just burnt them up in the inside. Let me get a little bit more on this massacre. Let me see. It says, okay. It says that white residents of Opelousas grew increasingly resentful of black voting rights as the 1868 election approached. On September 28th, a group of local white men threatened and then severely beat Emerson Bentley, who is the white man I just read about. It says, this is what they did. This is after the killings, right? It says that press accounts of the violence were skewed because white mobs destroyed the printing presses used by the newspaper publications and killed a white man who worked as an editor of the pro-Reconstruction St. Landry Progress newspaper. White supremacist newspapers dominated the post-massacre reporting and flooded the press with inaccurate tales of a race riot. You see what I'm saying? They would say race riot. They wouldn't say a massacre. It would be 8 years before another progressive newspaper was launched in the parish. So not only did they kill black people indiscriminately, they destroyed the printing presses to print any newspapers for the word to get out. And their papers were printed where they skewed the real truth. They basically said this was a race riot. This was an equal battle on an equal playing field. This had nothing to do with racism or none of that. And this is all because black people wanted to be a part of the politics of Opelousas, St. Landry Parish, Louisiana. They wanted to vote. They want to be a part of the Republican Party, the Democratic Republic. They wanted to be a part of those parties in order to be involved in what was going on in the town. But the KKK said, oh no, nigga, no, you not. And this is history that escapes Black people because it is suppressed. And it is stuff that we need to always remember and understand. Because if it was anybody else, they would say, never forget. They would say, we're never going to forget what happened to our ancestors in these heinous acts. And like I said, there are a number of massacres. Some I've just found out yesterday. Number of massacres that happen with Black people's towns and cities that you've never heard about. Don't worry. That's why Black Authentic Truth exists. We're going to bring it out. Now, this is a sister. This picture was taken in 2018. This is a sister who keeps the information alive, and she's a how can I say it? She's an activist, but she also digs up the records of the town, and she keeps the massacre alive by talking about it, by setting up, town hall meetings and things of that nature. So shout out to that sister. I don't got her name, but she keeps the history of the Opelousas massacre alive in today's time. You know what I mean? By digging up the rare history, artifacts, news clippings, and things of that nature. So that's what I got for y'all, okay? That is the Opelousas massacre. When brothers and sisters decided, you know what?
Right.
Give me a second. When brothers and sisters decided that they wanted to be a part of what was going on in America, and this is 1868. This is 3 years after Emancipation Proclamation, and they said like, "Oh yeah, so you think you free? You gonna cast a vote? This is the Democratic Party and the Republican Party." Like when it comes to these politics, like I said before, it is, it's just two sides of the same evil coin. And I mean, we haven't learned yet. We haven't learned that that's not the answer to the woes in the Black community. But this is a good historical reference to start from. The Opelousas St. Landry Parish Massacre. Not race riot. We got to keep that. We got to keep it correct because you'll read it somewhere else and it'll say race riot. And that's how they always do. They make it seem as though Black people had an equal footing. And all Black people were trying to do was just trying to fight back and protect what they had. That's like the East St. Louis massacre, where I believe this is where you have the first drive-by shooting on record, where the police drive by and shoot into the church. And then the next time a car comes down, I'm sorry, not the police, but white people shoot into the church. And the next time a car comes down the street, the brothers that was at the church, now they're armed. The next car that comes, they shoot at that car and they kill a police officer that's in the car. He was just rolling by. But this started the massacre. So really, it was just them protecting themselves that started the massacre. And this is the thing. When it comes to something like that, we don't make the guns. We got guns. We don't make guns, though, and we don't make ammo. So soon, it's going to run out. You know what I'm saying? Sooner or later, it's going to run out. And they always have a advantage over you. This was happening in Opelousas. This will happen in a lot of massacres. Brothers and sisters just band together to fight back. Don't want to be, treated the way they're being treated. Don't want to be shot at. Don't want their children and their families to be hurt. And it's in your spirit as a man to protect your family. And in that, those things turn into what you call massacres. Now, if it was just hands, it'd be one thing. It ain't just hands. It's weapons of warfare that we're dealing with. And that's how people attack, and that's how people protect. But we don't make all of that stuff. We don't, have the factories where a Black man is making guns and, making, all type of weapons of warfare. It doesn't exist. So yeah, that's what I got for y'all, brothers and sisters. Listen, man, I thank y'all for rocking with me. I appreciate it. I got a lot. I got a hell of a lot going on right now. You would be surprised at everything I got going on right now. But I still wanted to do a live and stick to this at least the Sunday. I didn't do it Wednesday. I said I would, but you know, I'm gonna try to keep bringing uh you know great content, videos, with information that we all need, and just the history too. The history is something that we all can brush up on at any given time. I'm not the brightest and the sharpest in history, but a lot of the stories that I bring to the forefront, I get a lot of people that tell me they appreciate that. So I appreciate the fact that, well, I love the fact that I'm bringing something that's beneficial to our community, that Black people can gain something from and get a better perspective from. So with that, man, let me see. Let me check the comments one last time. Good looking out, sis. That's my sister right there. I see y'all. Moms is in the house. Good looking out. You know what I mean? I see I got about 10 people in here, man. Shout your boy out, man. I mean, share it, the video at least. Share it at least. At least do that. Do me that. I appreciate you. I appreciate you too, Ariel. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate that. You know what I mean? But I'm going to when I get my chance, I'm going to zone in into having the live stream go like this. We'll go with current events, and then at the end of it, we'll bring a Black Authentic Truth story. What I like to do, what I prefer to do, is I like to talk about stories about Black people that we don't know. So, not taking nothing away from the pioneers and the people we hear about during February, Black History Month, Martin Luther King, all these people. I want to talk about people that are forgotten about, brothers and sisters, their contributions, their inventions, their contributions to science, to medicine. There's so many things that our people have done that is just forgotten about, that's overlooked, or they didn't have the money to buy the patent and it went to some white people or a white company. I want to talk about that type of history. Also, I want to talk about the history of ancient times. Who are we? Well, I know, but just showing evidence, showing what people in ancient times said. Where did we come from? Were we actually native to Africa? I'm gonna tell you right now, we wasn't. But if we were not native and we were the people who were the settlers in West Africa, where did we come from? That's another thing people got to ask. You got to understand. The Negroes were not indigenous to West Africa. We were settlers there. And so you would treat the settlers different if you were an indigenous to that land. You would look at them with indifference, kind of like how the Native Indians looked at white people when they came over here. They wanted to go to war with them. But that's the platform. That's how I want to build the platform as far as where it go. When we're talking about live, I want to start off with the current events and I want to hit y'all with some Black Authentic Truth. So shout out to all of y'all that was up in here. I'm about to get up out of here. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Shalom. Peace. We up out of here.